Hey, what's up, guys? Good to be back with you here again. A couple of days ago, I talked about amateur management, football manager, and how it's a little bit too easy. It really is, and I think that some of you in the comments have sort of confirmed this. And I've seen this as well in different places on Discord and on message boards when people talk about, getting one of those extended databases, starting the 13th tier of the English League and stuff like that. The problem that you have with this is that you'll notice that the amateur levels are really easy to get through, and that there's not really much distinguishing from one level to the next. So what can we do about it, right? Instead of just complaining, we should come up with some ideas that could potentially fix this. I've come up with 5 things here to try to fix amateur management, football manager. This is sort of the way that I would go if I were in charge of everything and had unlimited resources. Number one, the thing that I think that is most needed is we need to make it harder for players to move between teams. As it stands right now, if you're in an amateur league, especially if you're in an amateur country and everything's completely amateur, like you can go find the best players in the country and they will just go to your team, no questions asked, which can be really, really strange, especially if you're in let's say you're doing, a Hexagon challenge and you move from Kiribati over to, Djibouti, now that I've done this before. I could, when this happened, theoretically, I was able to go back to Kiribati and find my favorite striker and just move him over from one country to the next. No problems, no questions asked. It was a piece of cake. This is a problem. And big part of the problem is that it's a little bit too easy to just go and buy these guys for free. I don't think that it's a great thing to have this in the game. It may be realistic. It may even be the case that Football Manager Sports Interactive has made it now so that it's harder for you as a massive club to go over and vacuum up all the good amateur players or whatever, but it still needs a little bit of tweaking because as it stands right now, when I have a team that has success in one season, I can attract all of the good players in the league to come over to my team all at once. I could have a monopoly on all the good players and then easily destroy the competition and just take the best of the lot and play them. And if the other ones get unhappy, we just release them and then let them find another club. That needs to change. It needs to be harder for you to have players move around between teams and leagues like this. I know that it's common, but this idea that anybody's willing to go over to your team, is a little bit strange. That needs to be rethought. Second thing I would do, number 2, is to fix the finances and have them make sense. As it stands right now, if you've got an amateur team in the game, you have no money in the bank at all. Basically, what you do is you just sit back and collect money. At least that's what's happening here in American Samoa, right? I'll go forward and show you this. We don't own our own ground. We don't own our own anything. I need to move this over. There we go. We go over here to the finance screen. You can see that all we do is make profit because we have no expenses. We don't pay anything except a little bit. Non-football costs 23 euros, match day expenses of 113, and then a little bit for scouting costs. Right now, theoretically, at this level, we could just get rid of scouting altogether, right? But you need to have something that will take money from your team, right? We don't really have much of a youth setup. We haven't had any fines. We don't maintain the grounds because we don't own it, right? We don't have to worry about emoluments for the director. We don't have to worry about transfers because there's no place for money to go. There's no salary for the players or for the staff, no loyalty bonuses, no nothing, right? This is also a problem because when you're playing with an amateur team, you can basically sit back and just collect money until your team has enough money finally to go semi-pro. And if you're in a completely amateur country with nothing but amateur teams, you could, I think, theoretically just go professional because you can still give contracts to people that are totally amateur and they'll be fine with it, right? This is the problem. This is the reason why you'll see people come into American Samoa. I saw a guy in the official forums do this and take whatever team and turn them into a superstar team that can win the Champions League and eventually get players good enough so that American Samoa can beat Australia, right, in international play. It's not really that realistic. There needs to be a place for the money to go. That can't be so easy. And as it stands in amateur football manager management, it's pretty easy. Now, it's not that easy if you have a larger pyramid that you're working in. So if you're doing this in England and you go over to, the 6th tier and you're in the league, or I guess it's technically still not in the league, but you're right about to get in the league, you're in semi-pro world, it becomes harder, right? And as you move up, it becomes harder because every time you move up, your expenses increase. Your players gain more notoriety. Other teams come along to get them, and it becomes harder to get new players because you don't quite have that financial stability, right? That's part of what makes Football Manager fun. Here in amateur world, that doesn't happen. Nobody knows about any American Samoa players, so I know that as long as I have a good team, I can always attract the best players and just keep doing this in perpetuity until we have enough good players to defeat another team, right? So, well, I guess part of what I'm saying with this is that if you're doing like an amateur type challenge, it's not really that much of a challenge. A better challenge would be finding a team that is about to be relegated and trying to make them win, especially if you go in halfway through the season and a relegation counts against you. That would be a real challenge. So number 3 here on my list, this is another one that is key, is to expand the rating system. The 20 points in the attribute rating system is probably not enough to distinguish between teams in like the 7th tier and in the 13th tier. There would need to be like negative ratings at some point in time, or you'd have to expand it from a 20-point system to like a 100-point system. I'll let you guys argue about exactly how that would look, but that's part of the problem that we have because, you know, players that are like mediocre in the 6th tier of English football will potentially be like really, really good at tiers below that. But the way that it's set up right now, it's all the same. I mean, if you put together a completely amateur team that wins the 13th tier, you can keep the same team from year to year to year until you get to semi-pro world. So that's a problem. Number 4, everybody said this already. Give us a wider variety of stadiums, right? We need to see stadiums that look like they're amateur stadiums. The stadiums we're playing in American Samoa don't look at all like the actual stadium there, right? There shouldn't be any stands. There should really be like standing room only type thing on the grass, right? Maybe the attendance figures are accurate. I don't know. But like, yeah, this needs to be fixed. We need to have more options for stadiums so that we can get really into the game. We can get that feeling of total immersion, right? Because as it stands right now, you kind of have to, you know, blink one eye and kind of pretend that we're always in England, and that's not the way it should be. At the very least, give us the ability as a community to do this ourselves, because the community would do a great job with it. You know, give us something that we can work with. And then number 5, and this is the one that I think came through in my other video, is you need to improve the owner goals. Right now, our goal is only to finish in mid-table. That's it. There's no other goal. There's really no long-term goal other than trying to finish in the upper top part of the table. That's it, right? And so as a result, I got an A+ because we are on pace to win the league, right? I mean, it's ridiculous. There should be more goals than that if you're an amateur team. Like, do we ever want to not be amateur? Do we ever want to get things, you know, set up better? Do we want to, I don't know, you know, have players playing for the national team, something like that? This should come into question when you're dealing with amateur club management, because otherwise it's too easy. That's the problem. It's too easy. You just show up and you win, and all of a sudden you're like a god, and it's like, oh, everything you do is right, and then you win every match, and that's what's happened to us so far. So there you go. Those are the 5 things I would do to fix amateur management, Football Manager. As a recap, number 1, make it harder for players to move between teams, because this is a joke. Number 2, there should be some place for the money to go. We can't just, you know, sit there and save forever, as nice as that is, you know. Number 3, expand the attribute rating system so that there's a difference between this level and the levels above it, right? As it stands right now, amateur and semi-pro are the same, except that amateur means you don't spend money, which is bizarre. Number 4, we need more stadiums. We need to be able to fix up the stadiums ourselves, right? That should be obvious. Number 5 is that we need more owner goals. We need something that's a little bit more in depth so that we don't end up hitting the goal halfway through the first season and then everything is, you know, super and we're the best in the world. There you have it, and I'll talk with you tomorrow. Bye-bye.